for a couple of years, I was just kind of, the idea was kind of bouncing around in my head of would it be possible to kind of initiate this journey of putting together a big epic Viking movie with an old Icelandic saga at the core. I didn't know which one. There's so many of them, and I didn't really have a starting point. I didn't know where to how to kind of attack it, but I kind of knew that I wanted the combination of the old sagas are often about a family feud. It's about revenge. They're quite contained, and I thought it'd be incredible if you can combine that, but to do that on an epic scale. So you'd both have big battle scenes, but also at the core of it is this quite intimate story. We wanted to look as real and truthful as possible. And when it turned out that he was incredibly passionate about Norse mythology and the Viking culture, it felt like the obvious choice or a dream choice for us. So after that meeting, I spoke to Lars, and we both agreed that Rob would be the perfect director for this project. So we asked him, and to our great delight, he said that he wanted to jump on board. And so that was kind of the genesis of this collaboration between the three of us. It's character-driven. That was important, that it wasn't, you want it to be visually overwhelming and a lot and spectacular, but you need to care about these characters and follow them and feel for them and have these intimate moments between them, which made it a lot of. It was a great movie to shoot because you got, in a way, the best of both worlds. You got these incredible set pieces, big fight scenes, but you also got days where you're in a room with Nicole Kidman and just it's a dead quiet scene, two characters talking to each other for 4, 5, 6 pages, and it's a real treat when you can have both in the same movie. Obviously, from when I was very young, I had this fixation and a pull towards Viking culture and Norse mythology, and then I've basically lived half my life in the States, half my life in Sweden. Grew up in Sweden, then half my life in the States, and in those 20 years. Since I left Sweden, I've played a lot of really interesting characters. I've been very fortunate, but I don't think I've ever played a Scandinavian. I guess I did a show called True Blood, and on that one, my character had been in the States for 2 centuries, but was originally a Viking. Also named Northman, by the way, in his last name. But I never, there was something about being away from Sweden that long, playing characters from around the world, mostly American characters, that kind of awakened that desire to go back to my roots in a way and to play a Viking was something that I was desperate to do. So our story is based on Prince Amleth of Jutland by Saxo Grammaticus in the 12th century. So about 200 years after the end of the Viking era, the Viking Age, which was the predecessor of Hamlet. It's Shakespeare-based Hamlet on this character. Hence, he's a Danish prince, and the structure is basically young man father murdered by uncle marries his mother. That is in the Northman. Everything else is quite different. Hamlet is very much a man of inaction. Amleth is definitely not. He is very much a man of action. At least once he's set on the right path, when he found he realized what his fate was, and when Bjork's character reminds him of who he is and what his purpose is, his mission. He vows to avenge the death of his father and save his mother as a 10-year-old boy when he watches the brutal murder of his father by his uncle. But when we're reconnected with him 20 years later, he works as a berserker on these Viking raids down the Russian rivers, which is basically the tip of the spear during the Viking invasion. They throw in these 10 to 15 berserkers to wreak havoc first, and almost like special forces. They go in and then they wreak havoc. They open the gates for the rest of basically the cavalry come in. We wanted to capture the essence of these people and give the audience an opportunity to see the world through the Viking world, through the eyes of these characters, and be as truthful to what that would look and feel and be like as humanly possible. I was very hopeful and optimistic that Rob would capture the essence, and Sean would capture the essence of that era and these characters, and to get that language right. Because we had years before played around with a couple of different ideas and with some screenwriters. But this was the first time when I first got the first draft of The Northman. I was so happy I cried. It had that, like the old Icelandic sagas, that dry, laconic tone. These incredible, succinct lines, just to the point. You don't really say more than necessary, and a lot of it is just said through looks. And it had all that, and the combination of almost like a play between these characters, but on a massive scale. It was important to show that side of the Viking culture, that there's so much more than just bearded men on longships fighting each other. The spiritual aspect of it, the role the matriarchs had on the farm. They were in the conduit, connecting the people on the farm to the spiritual elements, and could communicate with the spirits. So it was important to find that and capture that and tell that story without obviously taking away what quite a big chunk of the audience will go to see the movie for, because they want to see the longships and they want to see people fighting, and they're definitely going to get that in the movie. There's a lot of that, but to show that there's a lot more to the culture than that. I just hope that it will register when people see the movie that there are no cuts in those scenes, and that will hopefully make it feel, even if you have no knowledge of filmmaking or how a film is being put together, that it's something visceral, that they feel that something just feels different when you watch it. King Aurvandil returns in the beginning of the movie. He returns home from an expedition. He's probably been gone for a winter, maybe 2 winters. And his young son eagerly awaits his father's return, and admires his father, looks up to his father, and he's the young prince of this kingdom on Rapse, which is an island in the North Atlantic, and is thrilled to be reunited with his father. But unfortunately, that doesn't last very long, because he gets murdered by his brother, Amleth's uncle, and Amleth has to witness this. He's in this berserker bubble and is just has no real drive. He doesn't really he doesn't really know what his fate is. He's forgotten about that until he is reminded. There's an encounter with Asiris, played by Björk, who has a spiritual connection, and she knows who he is and what his fate is, and reminds him of it. And because of that, the next morning, an opportunity arises to find Fjolnir, his uncle, and to save his mother. And that's how we kind of embark on the adventure, and it's him finding his uncle. Nicole was, it's who we wanted from day one. When we started talking about Gudrun, who would be the perfect Gudrun, it was always Nicole. I had just worked with her on Big Little Lies and had the most amazing experience with her. It was another very, very dark, complicated relationship, and she was just the perfect partner in that, in going to those dark places together. We approached Nicole about this, and we're obviously thrilled when she wanted to come on board. You see that in the movie, how Olga, Anya's character, and other characters, other women on the farm are being treated by the masters of the farm, but also to give them agency and strength, and make Anya's character Olga integral and important in getting off the island. That's her mission, and working together with Amleth, they can help each other out, and they need each other because she has that connection that he doesn't to the other side, to another realm. In the beginning, Olga is a distraction, but then he realizes that she has vowed to get off this island, and she has knowledge and a spiritual connection that he doesn't have. And the only way he can manifest his fate is through her, an alliance with Olga. Anya's incredible to work with, really. It was important to... We don't have that many scenes, at least in the first half of the movie, so it was really important to kind of pack a punch in those scenes and to really feel that connection. I think it helps that we had a lot of fun together, and we did enjoy spending time together, or I hope, at least I did. I hope Anya felt the same way. again, we talked a lot about it because there are so few scenes in the beginning and the setup of this relationship. It was very important that for the audience to feel, oh, this is a strong connection, and he can't do this without her. CeCe Smith, our stunt coordinator, was phenomenal and had to work really, really hard. It's very difficult to shoot a movie like this for anyone's, let alone the stunt coordinator, because again, his hands were tied. It was one camera on film, no cuts, so everything had to be perfect. It was, fortunately, I got to work with Mark Slaughter, who was my stunt double on Tarzan, and Jack, who's also on Tarzan, and their team. So it was a bunch of stuntmen that we had a rapport. We knew each other. We worked very well together, everyone. It was a challenge, but in a way, we all kind of thrived on that. Really loved that idea that it was so different and difficult to shoot it. There are very few moments where you can use a stunt double, again, because there are no cuts. So it's not like, well, let's do that with a stunt double, and then we cut back to me doing the landing. You know, it has to be all you. So it's about being prepared and making sure that you rehearse it enough times, and that obviously being warmed up, working with professional stunt guys, that so those fights are safe for everyone. It was nice to get another Scandi in there, no, Claes is fantastic in the film. He's got a quiet intensity that I think is quite mesmerizing, and it's a wonderful role because it's so much more than just the antagonist. Shooting the feast in the beginning of the movie when King Arundel, Ethan's character, and Fjolnir and all their men return home with the riches from their expeditions, being entertained by the court jester played by Willem. It was wonderful because I was not in those scenes, and not to say that it wouldn't have been great to work with with Willem, but I actually I obviously came to set those days because Willem was going to be a court jester. But to be on set and to watch that, to stand next to camera and watch that, he's extraordinary, extraordinary. That and the whole the ritual with King Arundel and young Amleth, led by Willem's character. It was just, it's so good. He's so phenomenal and absolutely perfect for that part. The plan was to be as accurate as possible, and just the amount of research that went into this was extraordinary. There would be conversations about, is this not the right century, but the right decade? Would this scene look like this? Well, this is more Eastern Sweden than Iceland this decade. Or what would this brooch look like? Would that be the right scene? Would that? It was, as an actor, a dream to step into that outfit, because you felt that the attention to detail and the passion behind it. And it was imperative to not try to make it look cool. I think you often you can take a lot of creative freedom. I'm all for that, and make your characters look cool, even if at the time they might have looked very different. We chose not to do that. We chose to try to be as accurate as possible. When we submitted it to her, we were hopeful, and obviously Sean having those conversations with her. She doesn't act much anymore. So it was incredibly exciting when she said yes, and one of the highlights of the 6-month shoot was that one night I had on set with Björk. It was in a burnt down structure in the Slav village, and we shot it all night, and it was just an incredible experience. I recommend watching The Northman on a very, very big screen because it's a Robert Eggers movie, and what Robert and Jaren, our DP, if you've seen The Witch or The Lighthouse, it's incredibly, they're both incredibly visual movies. And this is created by those two extraordinary filmmakers, but on a much, much larger scale, on a bigger scope. So I highly recommend watching this to be fully immersed in that world that Rob and Jaren created. It doesn't really do it justice on an iPad. I recommend watching it on a massive screen.
Hey, now don't close out, I've got some awesome movie extra trivia. One of the great pioneers of special effects was Ray Harryhausen. He pushed the limits of imagination, visual effects and miniatures in ways that inspired generations after him. One of his most famous moments in film was a scene in Jason and the Argonauts, where the hero had a sword fight with 7 skeleton warriors. The scene was done with stop motion and took 4 months to complete. Now, do you like my shirt? You can get one for yourself in the shop section under the video.